Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I'll rank every boss from the first Yokai Watch game, within the context of the first game. That means I won't consider their appearances in the future games. When I get to ranking all the bosses in 2, I will update this list based on what was added in 2 for these bosses, probably through a tier list. And now let's get into the ranking. Number 22 and last place is Tarantutor, which is probably the only boss here that I outright don't like. First of all, you can't damage him straight away, which would be fine if it wasn't for the fact that there's 4 things you have to damage first, being 4 of his legs. Not only that, but when you finally can damage him, when he falls over, he doesn't even stay like that for that long, which means the fight can last ages. No joke, when I replayed this game with Charming Tribe only, it literally took half an hour, which might just be because I'm bad, but most of my yokai were auto-befriends and I didn't do any extra quests. So this is what it would be like on a normal playthrough. Even the devs must have known this, as he's the only story boss except McCracken 1 to not get a recolor in the Infinite Inferno. Number 21 is Duiel. Now we're getting to the bosses I think are okay. What I really don't like about Duiel is his whole wisp gimmick, and to be honest, I still don't really understand it. Right, this is me editing here. I've just read the wiki. Apparently one of them's supposed to be different, but I don't see a difference. Don't know what they're on about. And I mostly just target his face, because I know that will always deal damage. After a bit, his face will go upside down and turn red, which makes his attack stronger. You shouldn't be too hard, as most people will fight him in the post game, where yokai are higher leveled, though I guess he could be a bit of a challenge if you fight him during the story. Next up at number 20 is Spooklink. I think his gimmick is okay, having to attack the chest until it opens up when you can damage him, much better than Tarantutor for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's only 1 target instead of 4, and number 2, his chest opens up for a long time. What feels like even too long, to the point where you mostly beat him in 1 cycle. He can also attack his swords, but I feel like that's kinda pointless. I also think it's quite funny how it's revealed that it's just a mouse controlling him. It's also weird how he comes after Dr. Noga in the Infinite Inferno. 19 is Phantasmari. Same as Spooklink, but I like him more, because he's a part of the story and his colours are better. At number 18 we have another secret boss, Chirpster. His gimmick is that he has 2 boxes you can attack to get rid of them, and sometimes he'll prevent you from dealing damage to him and gets you to target one of the boxes. If you pick the wrong one, it'll either damage your yokai or heal Chirpster, but if you pick the right one, it'll damage Chirpster or heal your yokai. There's also no way to tell which is which, but just like Duiel, most people do this boss in the post game with higher level yokai. Now we're getting to the bosses which I like, starting with number 17, Calypso. You can target his forehead to deal damage, or his eyes, which will cause him to miss more. Unlike other bosses, where you could just target the place that deals damage, here it usually feels better to actually target his eyes first, because he will miss most attacks rather than just disabling certain attacks. 16 is Massiface, who's the same as Calypso, but I like him more because he's in the main story. Dr. Noga is number 15. Instead of targeting somewhere for your yokai to attack, in this fight, you instead use the target feature to pop hearts in the background. If you leave them on screen, Dr. Noga can heal himself depending on how many there are. If you manage to pop all the hearts whilst he is healing himself, you will stun him for a bit. For this reason is why I usually keep 1 heart on screen so I can easily stun him if he starts healing. 14 is Dr. Madman, who's the exact same as Dr. Noga but important to the story. 13, 12 and 11 are Styx Mark 6, Hoggles and Idra respectively, who are the recolors of the first 3 bosses of the game. I'm grouping these 3 together because I like their gimmicks, but I think it's better when I talk about the gimmicks on the original bosses that these are recolors of. Just reaching the top 10 is SV Snaggerjag. I like his gimmick where he can fish up fish which can attack you or heal him. The main reason up this high is due to how iconic he is, being part of the original 3 bosses, and even got in friend form in 2. This doesn't affect the ranking because it's not in 1, but I find it funny how in future games he says, "It's a big one," as one of his lines. I'll give you a shout out in the next video if you can name all of Snaggerjag and Styx Mark 6's fish without looking them up. You might think I'm a hypocrite for putting Snaggerjag up this high when Chirpster is so low with a similar gimmick. First of all, number 1, Snaggerjag did it first, and number 2, Snaggerjag doesn't have the stupid RNG gimmick. Coming in at number 9 is Sproink. This is the boss everyone struggles with on their first playthrough, due to not knowing how he works. You can either target his face or his belly button. In his first phase, you target his face, because his belly button is covered, thus dealing less damage. Once he covers up his face, then you attack his belly button to deal more damage. Once he starts lying down, despite targeting the belly button dealing more damage, you actually want to target the head, otherwise he will use his Soultimate and destroy your entire team. Just like Snaggerjag, he is a really iconic boss, and I quite like his gimmick, but can be confusing to new players. 8 is Squisker. Just like Hydrohoggles and Styx, I'm gonna wait till I get to the one he's a recolor of to discuss his gimmick, but I do like him as a nearly final challenge of the Infinite Inferno. Number 7, the first boss of the game, Slimermander. I really like him as an introduction to bosses, as he has 3 heads, which there are 3 targets, and the player is already used to dealing with 3 targets at a time. He also introduces the idea that some bosses you can't damage at first, and that bosses will have a weak point. His actual gimmick is that you attack one of the heads until it's revealed to be an eye, where you can damage him. Unlike Phantasmarai or Tarantutor, the eye feels like it's out for the perfect amount of time. He's definitely the most iconic Yokai Watch boss, and for good reason, plus he's a lot more important to the story than most other bosses, and you even fight again in the last chapter. McCracken is number 6. I like most of his attacks, including his Soultimate, but I'm not a huge fan of the whole targeting hand gimmick. He's mainly up here due to his character, backstory, and obviously being the first form of the final boss. If you want to know more of my thoughts on McCracken, go watch my final boss video. Up next, just breaking the top 5 is Ogrelos, who's the second of the 3 Onis. The Onis are like the ultimate endgame challenge. They don't really have a gimmick other than dealing a whole lot of damage and just being really strong. Ogrelos is the second strongest Oni, and unlike the others, he uses technique attacks instead of using physical attacks. The only reason he's below the others is just that I like them more. Another thing is, like I said in the Terror Time video, it can be quite annoying just leaving your 3DS on until Terror Time happens, and even then, you're not guaranteed to get the Oni you want. Number 4, the first of the Onis, Gargaros. He's definitely up there with Slimermander for being one of the most iconic bosses in the series. He'll destroy your whole team if they aren't high level enough. Works the same as Ogrelos, but just a bit weaker and uses physical attacks. The strongest of the Onis, the secret final boss, the ultimate test of strength. At number 3 is Orkanos, by far the strongest boss in the game, which is extremely difficult to beat without items. Works the same as Gargaros but much stronger. Orkanos is the ultimate Yokai Watch 1 challenge. Number 2 is McCracken's second form, or as I like to say, McCracken 2. McCracken 2 is a really good final boss, with good difficulty, banger soundtrack, good lore, all that sort of stuff. Though all bosses have the banger soundtrack part. If you want to learn more of my opinion on McCracken 2, once again, go see my final boss video where I go in much more depth. Finally, taking the number 1 spot, the other secret final boss, Wobblewalk. We've never seen another boss with a similar gimmick, being he can only be attacked by physical or technique attacks depending on his eye colour. He also has access to all types of in-spirits, but they are random. He has a lot of lore, and you'd think he'd be based on some dark demon thing, but no, he's based on something from Dragon Ball of all things. This doesn't affect the ranking, but I like how in Blasters he says, Wibble Wobble, as a reference to Yokai Watch Wibble Wobble, which I do miss, but looking at the current state of Puni Puni, a part of me is glad that it shut down. Also, I had this Yokai Watch guidebook, and if I can find it, I'll show it. Edit, I did not find it. But if I ever do, I will show it. But on the page with Wobblewalk, next to his name it says Pottergeist in brackets. If anyone knows what this means, let me know in the comments. It's something that's always confused me. Well, that was every boss from the first game. If you want to see this for a second game, like and subscribe, and comment your favourite boss from the first game. Next video is ranking all the Coma Sands. Not much else to say. See you in the next one.